Tonight for dinner, I'm making lobster with penne. Now, lobster is pricey. However, the lobster tails were on sale at the grocery store. So I'm using this lobster tail meat. It's, at least right now, it's not frozen. It may have been at one point. So if you buy frozen lobster tails, just make sure they thaw. And these are raw, so they're gonna cook in the sauce. So I learned a trick after I cut the first one, and that is I should have cut both sides of the tail using some kitchen shears because you'll see I only cut one, and it's super prickly. Like, that shell is really painful on your hands. Again, something I discovered after I had already done 2 of them. So anyway, with kitchen shears, you want to cut down that shell, and then the shell will crack if you apply pressure like I'm doing, and the meat will come apart from the shell. And at that point, you want to pull the meat out and cut it into bite-sized chunks. Now I'm cooking penne noodles. I always add salt to the water, and the package says 10 minutes for al dente. I'm gonna go about 1 minute shy of that. I'm testing the noodles because they're gonna get another time to cook in the sauce, which allows it to absorb some of the flavors of the sauce. I always like to reserve some of that pasta liquid to put in the sauce, and now I'm just gonna drain those noodles out, and because I'm not using them right away, I'm spritzing them with olive oil so they don't stick. Drain the water, and in the same pot, melt some butter. I'm also gonna put in some olive oil. I like the flavor of both. And then I'm gonna add some chopped onion, followed by some minced garlic, and I'm seasoning with salt and pepper and a couple dashes of red pepper flakes. So there's my minced garlic. Everything needs to cook until translucent. You want the onions and garlic to release their flavor before adding in the tomatoes. I'm using crushed tomatoes, but you could use, not sauce, I wouldn't do tomato sauce, but you could use pureed tomatoes, which is basically crushed tomatoes, but with very little texture. So I just wouldn't use sauce. This is a huge can because I was doubling my recipe. But if you're just making a single, you would use a 14.5 ounce can of crushed tomatoes. And then I'm using that pasta liquid to get the rest of the crushed tomatoes out of the can. I would taste the sauce before you add in the lobster meat. So again, because this is raw lobster, I'm cooking it in the sauce, and I don't want it to get super tough and chewy. So once you drop it in the sauce, you should be pretty close to serving this meal. You don't want it to hang out in the sauce too long. So this only takes about 5 minutes. You want the color of the meat to turn pink or like salmon colored, and then you know that the lobster is done. Don't overcook it. Now I'm adding some half and half, but really cream would be better. I'm just very afraid of using heavy cream. Add the noodles back in and let them cook for about a minute, making sure you've tossed to coat all the noodles before serving. And I like to serve this with some fresh basil and Parmesan cheese. For this recipe and more, visit myclasscancook.com.